Slavery is back. In fact, it was never abolished. The 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery, except in prison.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons.
Literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons.
At the current rate of incarceration, the majority of all African American men between 18 and 40 will be in prison.
It appears Hollywood is the name of an evil mafia that will go to any lengths to make money. It seems this evil mafia has found one horrifying means of making money, and that involves landing millions of young people in prisons. At least, that's according to Ice Cube.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons.
Literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons.
Countless people are spending their lives in prison without any fair trial or any hope of justice. Their lives are reduced to free labor for the private prison mafia.
If you mean to tell me these people can make an unbiased decision whether or not, when you go to parole board, whether to let their free labor go or not, of course they're gonna say, oh yeah, hit them, give them 2 more years.
But it appears the prison mafia isn't alone in its efforts to keep young people locked up. In fact, it has a shocking partner in this crime. The people who own these private prisons also happen to be some of the most influential people in Hollywood.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons.
Could this just be a crazy coincidence? It sure doesn't seem like one when you realize the whole entertainment industry is just essentially pushing people into a life of crime.
If jails become businesses, what do you have to do? You have to market for your business. And who are you me being a business major, you have to have your target audiences. And who are your target audiences? My people.
It definitely looks like Hollywood works hand in hand with the private prison mafia to keep the prisons full. And as a result, both industries benefit from the free labor of millions of inmates. It even looks like little children and innocent teenagers aren't safe from the exploitative hands of Hollywood.
Gangster judges were selling into a prison camp. Where were the protectors of the kids at that time?
Evidently, Ice Cube has continued to make terrifying accusations regarding Hollywood being a mafia that benefits from putting people in prison. Now, as bizarre as this might sound, there appears to be enough evidence to support this scary idea, be it Hollywood CEOs or record label owners. All these people in power in the industry want more and more people to end up in prison. Why would they want this? The answer is apparently as simple and sinister as one would expect.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons.
Literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons.
Ice Cube appeared on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast and made some bone-chilling revelations. He says Hollywood executives want people to be locked up, and they help create a whole culture of violence and thug life to make this possible. This isn't just mindless speculation. Anyone can easily see the truth when you look at where the money goes. He spoke very clearly about the connection between Hollywood and the prison industry. Who benefits and profits off our bickering and division? I don't know their names, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see literally the same people who own the record labels own the prisons. The music industry also benefits from landing naive young people into prisons, and the higher-ups use music to push these people into the lifestyle of crime. Ice Cube spoke about this and said, "It seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word, that the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry." According to the rapper, the whole industry is involved in creating an environment that makes young people more prone to crime and violence. A very sinister and elaborate social engineering is at work here in order to make profit off of people's lives.
Some social engineering going on here to make sure those prisons stay full.
By making violence and gangs sound cool in their music, the record label owners make sure young people look up to this lifestyle of violence and crime. This means more and more young people end up in prisons before they have any real chance at making a decent life for themselves. Bill Maher and Ice Cube discuss this sinister plan in the podcast.
The kind of stuff in rap lyrics works as a funnel to get people inspired to do the kind of things that would get them in prison.
The prison industrial complex is one of the most profitable industries at the moment, and one unlikely beneficiary of the prison system is Hollywood. That's right, Hollywood executives and record label owners directly benefit from the rise in crime. When the names of owners of some of the biggest media houses in the world are cross-checked with names in the prison privatization, the results are shocking to say the least. Looking at only one name in the private prison industry makes the whole problem obvious. Corrections Corporation of America is one of the leading names in the private prison industry. It benefits the most from having more and more people locked up in prisons. The largest holder in Corrections Corporation of America is Vanguard Group Incorporated. Interestingly enough, Vanguard also holds one of the highest numbers of stakes in the media giants determining America's culture. Vanguard would of course use its influence in one industry to promote the other. It isn't the only group with vested interest in both the industries. There are many other startling overlaps in private prison mass media ownership, but two underlying facts become clear very quickly. The people who own the media are the same people who own private prisons, the exact same people. And using one to promote the other is very lucrative. CCA no longer even tries to hide the fact that they benefit from the unlawful incarceration of people. In fact, in 2012, CCA contacted 48 states and offered to buy their prisons. The stipulation of eligibility for the deal was rather bizarre. An assurance by the agency partner that the agency has sufficient inmate population to maintain a minimum 90% occupancy rate over the term of the contract. Instead of considering it the failure of the state that the prisons are overflowing with inmates, the private prison complex is benefiting and encouraging this arrangement, such as the Ironwood prison.
With more inmates than cells, California packs this prison until bursting.
In other prisons, even children were unlawfully incarcerated to fill up the prisons.
Prosecutors say they were in cahoots to then keep the jail filled with children who did not belong there.
In order to ensure this 90% occupancy rate, the private prison industry openly joined hands with the entertainment industry. In an anonymous email sent out to various members of the music and publishing industries, an account of a meeting was given where it was determined that hip-hop music would be manipulated to drive up privatized prison profits. Its author, despite claiming to be a former industry insider, did not provide the names of anyone involved in the plot, nor did he specify by which company he himself was employed. But the contents of the email made it clear how the record labels are actively involved in promoting the private prisons. The letter read, "The speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. He explained that the companies we work for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments." The letter explained in detail that these decision makers from the music industry were openly encouraged to promote violence so that the prisons could be filled up. He told us that since our employers had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remained filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies. And as employees, we'd also be able to buy personal stocks in these prisons. A Twitter user addressed this huge conspiracy theory and even accused artists of making money from the private prisons. He said, "The government and music industry invest money heavily into gangster rap music and private prisons. The purpose is to promote crime and keep the prisons filled to make money. The artists also get a cut in this by getting a share of stock in these private prisons." Others pointed out how the privatization of prisons and the promotion of violence in music goes hand in hand. What's not fair is that the private prisons are funding the music industry, propagating thug life to black consumers through rap music. They perpetuate a culture that breeds criminals through rap music. I remember when rap changed in the 90s and used to be silly and fun. Now, artists are speaking out about how music and art is being used to promote a culture of violence only so that the higher-ups can fill their pockets. Ice Cube explained that the artists have no choice but to release the music the record label owners want from them. It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being near as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't. Certain flavors are exposed on the record. Some records are made by committee, meaning record company guys sit around and tell the artists, "This is hot, say that. do this. We gonna have this guy write lyrics. So the narrative is really kind of structured and really made into what the record company wants the record to be. There are entire music genres dedicated to violence and gang culture, such as drill music. The more this type of music becomes popular, the more violence increases amongst the youth.
With the popularity, fame, and attention that comes along with drill music, shootings and murders rose dramatically. The number of shootings soared 97%.
This type of music was focused not just on street violence, but the artists themselves claimed that they were involved in this lifestyle even at present. Drill music is quickly gaining fame in the black communities, and young children are beginning to think it is cool to be part of gangs.
Unlike the past, drill artists rap about current murders and violence and glorify being active, a term letting listeners know they're still involved in the streets and violence.
Record labels are constantly giving voice to artists who talk about violence and crimes. This is no coincidence. These labels want the same crime to become rampant so that they can make money off of it.
You got dudes that represent a label, entertaining spitting ignorance, spitting black you about to put a bag behind this, dog.
Not just this, the record labels also make money when these artists promoting gun violence and street crime suffer the same fates themselves. If an artist dies, the record label doesn't take the loss for it. In fact, most times, it ends up profiting off of the death. Artist Vince Staples talked about how these record companies capitalize off the death of their artists.
Because it's money in it, and they're going to keep selling it, and we're going to keep perpetuating it, and then we're going to be hurt when somebody. I don't necessarily know if they care. If they did, man, the album ready in 4 weeks once you die.
Not just the music industry, but the whole of Hollywood is perpetuating the idea of violence in the youth. Countless movies are made every year that focus on substances and violence, and the reason is simple. The more violence that occurs in the society, the more youngsters will end up in prisons. Private prisons make money by not just locking people up and charging them for basic necessities. They also make prisoners do free labor.
You know, I've been in jail. My brothers is in jail. They make license plates, they make tables, they make engines to car, they make every thing that you see on the streets in the penitentiary, and they get crumbs for that shit.
Prisoners are forced to work long hours in order to get basic items like toiletries or food. A former inmate talked about this horrible system. We have a system that forces people to work, and not only forces them to work, but does not give them an adequate living wage. Slavery by any name is wrong. Slavery in any shape or form is wrong. A Twitter user took to Twitter to express his anger over these systems of abuse that are still powerful and influential in today's world. Private prisons are a disturbing, disgusting product of modern capitalism. Slavery was essentially a giant private prison system for people who committed no crimes. Public prisons are legal slave houses. The 13th Amendment says so. That said, any prison under capitalism is sick. Another person wrote, "The court systems, lawyers, and private prisons that demand jails are near capacity for profit. The people they let off because they were paid off, changing laws to benefit people from lobbyists who pay money, media, and Hollywood. Crime is built in and encouraged here on a grand scale. This system of exploitation and abuse has been going on for years. Thankfully, brave artists like Ice Cube are now stepping forward to bring this evil to light and expose the Hollywood executives and record label owners in the role they play in perpetuating violence and crime. Only by talking about the problem can there be any hope of making changes to the system."